From the moment Althea Manalo stepped out of the sliding backstage doors of America's Got Talent, she felt her knees weaken. The cold air of the theater brushed against her skin, but what sent shivers through her wasn't the temperature. It was the realization that she was standing on the same stage she had watched for years from a small living room in Cebu City, where her family gathered around an old TV set every weekend. She could still hear her mother's voice echoing in her head, telling her, "Anik, one day you will stand there. One day America will hear you." Now that day had come, and the weight of it pressed against her chest. She took slow steps toward the center of the stage, her sneakers tapping lightly against the polished floor. The crowd stretched endlessly before her, thousands of faces blurred into a sea of anticipation. But the judge's table was crystal clear. Simon Cowell sat in his familiar spot, arms folded, eyes sharp as if he could see straight through every nervous thought she tried to hide. Heidi Klum smiled warmly. Sofia Vergara leaned forward with interest, and Howie Mandel gave her a small encouraging nod. That tiny gesture alone steadied her breathing for a moment. In her pocket was a tiny folded photo of her family standing in front of their humble carinderia in Cebu. They had woken up before dawn many times just to support her, rolling lumpia, frying bangus, and serving customers while she rushed between school, voice lessons, and nightly gigs in jeepneys and small barangay fiestas. Singing was never just a dream for her. It was survival, hope, and the only clear path she saw toward lifting her family from the daily struggle they faced. She felt the stage lights warm her face as she introduced herself. Her voice cracked, but she kept going. "Hi, I'm Althea Manalo, 18 years old, from Cebu City, Philippines." The moment the word Philippines left her lips, cheers erupted from Filipino audience members scattered across the theater. Some waved tiny flags. Others shouted, "Mabuhay!" That energy wrapped around her like an embrace from home. Simon raised an eyebrow. "Cebu, huh? That's far. What made you decide to come all the way to America's Got Talent?" Althea swallowed, her throat tight. "Because I want to show the world that a girl from a small city in the Philippines can dream big, and I want to help my family." Her honesty seemed to catch Simon off guard. There was a brief, unexpected softness in his expression before he hid it behind a slight smirk. As the crew prepared the microphone and the lights shifted, she inhaled deeply, grounding herself with memories of night singing while jeepneys roared past, of the scent of charcoal from street vendors, of the warmth of Cebu's sunsets reflecting on the sea. She whispered under her breath, "Para ese inyo." For her family. For her city. For everyone who ever believed in a voice born in a place the world often overlooked. And with that final breath, she prepared to sing, not just for a moment, but for the chance to change everything. The stage dimmed, and a single spotlight descended over Althea as she stood motionless, gripping the microphone like it was the only thing anchoring her to the ground. The soft hum of the crowd faded into a distant echo, replaced by the thumping of her own heartbeat. For a moment, everything was silent, the kind of silence that happens right before something life-changing begins. She closed her eyes and remembered the small recording studio in Cebu where she practiced this very medley, the smell of old speakers, the faint buzzing of cheap microphones, and her coach whispering, "Put your whole soul in every note." That memory steadied her trembling hands. The instrumental track slowly rose, the first few notes floating through the air like a gentle breeze. She started with a soft, almost whisper-like Tagalog phrase, one she had written herself, filled with the struggles and dreams of a Filipina fighting her way across oceans to be heard. The judges leaned forward immediately. Simon's facial expression shifted subtly. His arms, once crossed tightly, loosened. His head tilted. He wasn't just listening, he was studying her. As her voice climbed into the chorus, everything about her transformed. The timid girl who nervously introduced herself was gone. In her place stood a young woman with unmistakable soul, the kind of voice that carried generations of Filipino emotion, joy, pain, sacrifice, hope. Every note felt like it came from a place deeper than her chest, deeper than her lungs. It was the sound of night singing over tricycle horns, of storms battering tin roofs, of the quiet pride of her parents' tired smiles at the end of a long day. People in the audience began to rise slowly, almost unconsciously, as though pulled to their feet by the force of her voice. Some placed hands over their hearts. A few Filipinos in the crowd shouted, "Laban!" between the verses. Even the camera operators paused their movements, mesmerized. When she transitioned into the English section of her medley, the room erupted with energy. Her tone sharpened, her vibrato shimmered, and her high notes soared effortlessly across the theater. She hit a long, sustained note that filled every corner of the room, raw, vulnerable, powerful. Heidi brought a hand to her mouth, stunned. Sophia whispered, barely audible, "This girl is unbelievable." Howie stared in awe, blinking rapidly, as if trying to process what he was hearing. But it was Simon's reaction that carried the weight of the moment. He leaned so far forward that he was almost out of his seat. His eyes widened, not in polite interest, but in genuine shock. For someone known for his brutal honesty and impossible standards, his expression said everything. He wasn't just impressed. He was moved. The final note came like a wave crashing onto shore, bold, emotional, unforgettable. When it ended, the entire theater exploded into cheers. Lights flashed, people screamed her name, and the sound of applause echoed like thunder. Althea stood frozen, chest rising and falling, unable to believe the world she had just shifted with her own voice.